I'm Rob Lucura at Award 7 Podcast. I'm really excited today to be talking to director Jeffrey Roth about his new film, The Man with the Hat. Jeffrey, welcome.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate the time.
Jeffrey, Dr. Hawass says that the opening of a tomb is something that he's never been able to explain. When you first stood in those spaces with him, did you realize that this sense of wonder is probably going to be the emotional core of this film?
The short answer, yes. You're there and the first thing they do is they put you down a bucket and they drop you down 30, 40, 50 feet and you're just like, oh boy, here we go. And you don't know where you're going, right? And then but the second thing is that, I've worked out and live in LA, Hollywood, and it's the land of make believe. But the hardest thing over there is to wrap your head around that is actual real stuff from thousands of years ago. And so that did become sort of emotional, and then the core of the connection between him and where we were. And so, yes, we knew that it's going to have to be a big part of this.
Why focus a film on Dr. Hawass in particular? What made you feel he could carry an entire feature, not just as a great archaeologist, but as a character?
Yeah, well, right there. Number one, he is a character. I mean, if
Yeah.
you've seen anything about him,
Yeah.
there's no doubt he's a character. So number two is that when I was trying to figure out what to do next, and really it was as simple as his image just popped up on the computer screen. And it was something that I've been a fan of, let's say, ancient Egypt, right? I'm not an Egyptologist, I'm not an archaeologist, but I've seen his shows. I always search those out. And the one thing that to me stuck out was that there was nothing to connect him with his personal. You knew, because everybody seemed to use him as the go-between of the studio and whatever it is, the subject that they were trying to make the program on.
Yeah.
But you never got to understand anything about him. And so right there, I thought, aha, we might have something there.
You know, as an aside, if I'm channel surfing and something comes up about ancient Egypt, I always stay on it. I don't know what it is about ancient Egyptian culture and archaeology and all and iconography, but it's so fascinating. And I just actually wonder, come to think of it, why do you think ancient Egypt, more than any other ancient civilization, has this gravitational pull on audiences?
I don't know if I'll have a good answer for that, but I can say this. To me, it's almost the same thing as the fascination of the dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's like you see them, you're fascinated, you look at them, you watch the programs, and the kids are always fascinated. But there's something about that ancient Egypt and tombs and pharaohs and all the gods that they have and the way that they lived and that they were around for thousands of years, which is fascinating because, here in our country, well, we're coming up on our 250th anniversary, and those guys were around for thousands, and how did they survive? And in the artwork that they did, and the dynasties, and it's just I'm more of a fan sometimes than anything else. It's just fascinating.
It really is. I think it gives us perspective. You're right. 250 years seems like a long time, but it's such a drop in the ocean in comparison to what the ancient Egyptians, how long they lived and what they created, right? It's so fascinating to me. That's why I think, to me, that's the jumping point into this film. And also, you're right. I recognized Dr. Hawass. I didn't know anything about him really, but I knew who he was, which is really odd because it's not like, look, I don't know. I didn't seek him out, but I knew exactly who he was. And then I wondered, when looking at the way that you framed this film, your title, The Man in the Hat, kind of leads into folklore about his public image. Why foreground the persona, the hat, the swagger, the Indiana Jones association, rather than a more academic or historical framing?
Well, I think for one is that hat is him, right?
Yeah.
It is, he is known for that hat. He wears that hat whenever he's out. So it's a piece of his fabric. And so, but the academic, is that as interesting as the hat? And I think that's where he is different. And he will say that, which is, he has done something that no academic has done before. And the way he has busted through a worldwide sort of rock star in the archaeology Egyptology world, and it had to be the hat, because that is
Mm.
a character also in the movie, right? It's a very subtle character, but that is him. So that's why we definitely stuck with the title and making sure that the hat was a part of the entire through line from beginning to end.
Yeah, that's right. I was thinking about your previous work. I mean, the easy question could be something like, your films have centered on American power and institutions, and now you're looking outside the scope at something international, right? That's the easy. What I think actually is, you've got a really great way of taking something that we know about, we're familiar with, but finding a different angle, something super compelling. You've done it for the Apollo astronauts. You did it for presidents and vice presidents. For this, yes, of course, we love ancient Egypt. We're fascinated by Dr. Hawass, but what actually drew you to diving a little deeper? Like, what were you trying to achieve with this film?
Yeah, me, it has to be the human element. No matter what anybody is or they become, there's always a person behind the image, the persona, whatever you think you see on TV. And it's really for me to dig into that, because somebody, a lot of times I'll get a question about, especially about the president's, vice president's thing. And they're like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, well, who's your favorite and all that stuff. And I'm like, well, they're kind of like, your kids. You like each one for a different reason. But the one thing I say is that if you didn't know who they were, but you sat with any one of them in a bar and you had a beer with any one of these guys, you'd like them. But nobody gets to understand who they are, and that is really, I think, where I start and end with whatever it is that I decide to do, because it, definitely the human element with the big historical picture, because as you mentioned, the presidents, the vice presidents, the astronauts, and Dr. Hawass now. There's something about me that I like history, um,
Mhm.
and I like to dig deeper than what you see on TV or you hear in news reportings, or really, if you just Google Dr. Hawass, you'll see lots of things
Yeah,
about him. But nobody cares to get to understand and learn who they are, and that's my goal, is to try to educate and entertain people by learning about somebody, but also trying to make it interesting, and especially in this one with Egypt. I mean, that had to be another character, and
yeah,
interweaving his life with all that beauty.
yeah, absolutely. The other through line for me from your work today is that you're able to really achieve some really quite rare access, and and showing us a side of something we, as I mentioned earlier, that we think we know, but showing us something maybe a bit more authentic and a bit more inside that bubble. And so for this, you had such rare access inside tombs, in crowds, and in very private moments. So what aspects of Dr. Hawass' persona did you find most intriguing to explore? The celebrity, the politician, or the scientist?
I think whatever it is, you start off with an idea.
Mhm.
And if anybody ever asks about making a movie from the beginning or not, especially in documentaries, I always say whatever you think it's going to be in the beginning is not what it's going to be at the end. Because at the end of the day, whatever you think you know about somebody, as you spend time with them, as they talk, as you ask questions, as you go through anything, you see different sides. And that's where I like, sort of like, I call it like the organic process of filmmaking, right? You let that kind of help you tell the story. And I think the thing that really stuck with me was that you really do get a sense from him of his true love for Egypt, and how he really does want to have the Egyptian people care for their own antiquities and learn about their antiquities, and as you know, with the repatriation of certain things that they would like to have back. He truly is for Egypt, and I know sometimes that comes out probably in the wrong way, but you cannot doubt his love for Egypt and for the people, and how he wants kids to grow up. So he's trying to change the culture and how they look at it, because we in the movie tell you right at the beginning that even when he was a kid, he didn't care. about the pyramids or archaeology or ancient Egypt, and so he had to learn too. And then I think that's just something where he it just got into his heart.
Yeah, and what actually occurred to me was once you see the film, you can see that this is really a labor of love. He is fiercely protective of Egypt's cultural sovereignty, right? In a world where museums and collectors and nations are fighting over artifacts. So I wonder, how do you approach the political dimension without making the film feel like a polemic or an argument? Was this something that you discovered in the edit, or was this something that you had in mind when you from the outset?
Yeah, well, okay. So because again, going to for me, I like things in the first person, right? You know, anything that I've done, I don't use other people to come in to say pro or con against somebody. I like the subject to tell their own story. And so, with that being said, I knew that if I were to make this political, that would be coming from outside of him. So I
Mm.
wanted him to tell the political through the lens of his eyes, which you do see and you do understand how he feels about whether it's the revolution in 2011 or an obelisk missing at Luxor Temple that is now in Paris. But that's all from a personal account. So I try not to make it political because this is not meant to be a political film.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely right. But even still, I mean, you're filming as conflict was breaking out nearby, obviously. Did working under that shadow change how you thought about the fragility and urgency of cultural preservation? And did it present any challenges for you?
Yeah, we were in northern Egypt on October 7th. And right away we had to deal with crew, leaving. We had to deal with figuring out what to do. Is it still okay to shoot? Where do we go from here? Never did we ever feel like we were had an issue or any problems because of that. And the government, the people that we were with, Dr. Hawass, local people, everybody couldn't have been backed over or really done any more to make us feel comfortable and to help us continue to shoot. So with that lens, it didn't affect anything for us other than knowing what was going on somewhere else and just how horrible that was. But we kept going and what we needed to do, and we were able to do that, which was for us great because we're independent and time is money. So
Yeah,
it's not like we want to make trips all the time because it's not cheap.
no. But even still, forgetting about the conflict in the Middle East, um, just shooting in that region presents its challenges. Like, and the aerials that you're able to achieve over Giza and the excavation footage are so striking. What were the biggest technical and logistical challenges of shooting in places that are sacred and also very tightly controlled?
Right. Okay. So lot to unpack there. Number one is you got to get the permits. You need the
Yeah.
government, and once you get past that, then more or less, if you're going into a place that they're opening up for you, you may only have an hour. You may have 2 hours, but that includes your when you show up. That includes your setup, your walkthrough. Decide what you're going to do. You have to figure out what's down there because you don't know, right? You can't go scout ahead of time. And that includes your shooting, your breakdown, and everything that you need. So you got to be on your toes about that. Um, but that's also kind of the enjoyment in a sense because it does keep you on your toes and you're trying to figure out how are we going to do this, how are we going to do that in a unique way. When you're in a tomb and you drop down in a bucket and you're whatever in a room by it's 10 by 8 and you have 4 5 6 crew members and you want to make it seem like they're not there. I mean, you're stuck on the wall like a fly and while they're working to open something up for you. So you got that, and then with the aerials, it's a company called iFly, and they are the only one there. And whether it's a Transformers movie or our movie, that is the company. And I have to say, it's nice because last thing I want to do is bring a drone guy and we nick a pyramid and then we go, oops.
Oh,
So, if they do it, it's on them, right?
yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and also with the drone guys, they come and they kind of like have a way that they like to shoot, and we have to kind of tell them like, no, 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 we want to do it this way, and they're kind of looking at you like, are you sure? And we're like, yeah. So there's that, and then sometimes you're dealing with logistical, language, accents, even just film language. The way they you talk about things here, it may be different how they interpret it over there, or equipment may be the same name, but it shows up different because of all that stuff. And then you're dealing with lights that are different frame rates. You're dealing with a whole bunch of stuff that you just got to deal with on the day, and it's challenging, but it's satisfying.
I must admit, what you explaining that to me gives me a little bit of anxiety because not only are you dealing with, obviously a foreign culture, you're in a foreign country, there is some danger. Okay, let's be honest. All the permits and all the technicalities, plus your lighting and framing, very tight spaces that are 4,000 years old, and you don't want to turn it into a spectacle or a theme park. And you're dealing with obviously your crew. Were there ever moments on set or during production, I shouldn't really say on set, but during production where you were losing sleep because it was really challenging?
Every day. I mean, no doubt, because not only is it's challenging, but just like day one where you don't know. I mean, yeah, you're going to go to the pyramids. Okay, if you go in the pyramids, what's in the pyramids? You're not going to know until you're there. So then, when it comes day two, if we're going to go to Saqqara, what's in Saqqara? So it's an endless loop of where are we going, what's there. Yet that's sometimes where the beauty is, because you remember the scene with the five mummies. Okay, that was never planned. We were shooting
Wow.
something, and local guy taps me on the shoulder, and he says, "Hey, basically, look down there. There's mummies." And I'm like, "What do you mean there's mummies?" Looking down there, I don't see them. Somebody comes over, and they're like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." Maybe 100 feet away, they're uncovering some mummies, and we're like, "What?" And they said, "Would you like to go see it?" And we said, "Yeah." And we said, "But I promise, we won't bring the cameras because we didn't have a permit for that." And so we'd go down there, and sure enough, there's the five mummies. And then they're like, "Would you like to shoot them?" And we're like, "Yes, please." You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
so so as much as there's challenges in what you do, there's also surprises that come up that are just great that you could never, ever plan on. And it becomes, to me, one of the most fascinating things in the movie. Yet historically, they probably mean not much, because they're just buried in the sand, right? So they don't have a lot of money, not probably stature, or a king or whatever it may be. But yet, where do you ever just see mummies buried in the sand by themselves? And
What?
that was just
Yeah.
wonderful.
What a privilege to be able to witness that. Wow, that's incredible. I'm sure that's something that you'll carry with you for the rest of your life. It's amazing, really, when you think about it. Putting all that aside, though, at its core, this is the story about a boy from the Nile Delta who became the face, really, of a civilization for many of us. What did you learn about, I guess, ambition from someone who didn't, just want success, but wanted to embody a nation's past?
If there's anybody that wouldn't take no for an answer, it's probably him. And somebody who just had this drive to, uh, and I think when his drive, it's kind of like it fans out in different ways, right? You got the fame, but you got the antiquities. You have the protecting of a country from a guy, like you said, just from the Delta, rises up to become this character of Egypt figure, that probably does more for Egypt than anybody from Egypt. And I would venture to say, look, everybody knows Howard Carter, right? Because of King Tut. Howard Carter had the one discovery, and he's known for Howard Carter. But I think in the past 30, 40 years, you may say that Dr. Hawass has probably brought Egypt more to the world in the past 30, 40 years than really anybody may have for hundreds of years. And once he I've asked him at one point. I said, "So what happens when you're gone? You're not here. I mean, who's gonna fill your shoes?" And he says, "Nobody."
I mean,
I mean, but it's probably true,
yeah,
and he is as good for Egypt as he is for tourism for Egypt, as he is for educating the world. And I know he gets a lot of knocks for lots of things, but I think anybody that becomes big in their field, the next thing to do is bring it down. And
yeah,
everybody always has enemies or some grudge or something or another. So we didn't let that distract us because we felt our belief in him was different. And this is our opinion. Um,
yeah.
so you
Is that?
probably,
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say you could have 100 different people make a movie about Dr. Hawass, and you'll have it come out 100 different ways.
Yeah, that's
And
right,
this is
and
just
that's
this is our
perspective.
way.
That's
Yeah.
right. I mean, drilling down into that, Hawass is often admired, but he is controversial. He has been in the past. And so I ask this to many documentary filmmakers that I speak to. How do you decide when to protect your subject and when to challenge him?
Well, I think it's good to do both, right? You can protect, you can challenge, but I always want to verify. So if he makes a claim, and I'll take this to any of the presidents or vice presidents or astronauts, if they make a claim, I always want to make sure that whatever I'm putting out there for the film's point of view is correct, because either two things are going to happen. Number one, he's going to look bad, or number two, we're going to look bad if what we do and we don't do our own homework. And so we do challenge him in this film, and we do it by letting him read the words. Right? Again, going back to my thing about being in the first person, I let him read the criticism and answer the criticism, as opposed to either using my voice or somebody else to cut to. And so that's how I wanted to challenge him in this movie, is to let him read it and let's see what his reaction is in real time.
Yeah, it's that immediacy and authenticity that I think really, really works on this one. I'm interested though. You recently premiered the film with Hawass in the room. What reactions surprised you most from scholars, from general audiences, from people who grew up watching him on TV?
I think a couple things. Number one is it's very difficult in today's world when you're making a movie to go out and show it to an audience before it actually goes out. So when you're cutting a movie and you're putting it together, you think you know where things are going to land or this, that, or the other. But when we actually heard it with a real audience for a couple times in a couple different screenings, it's just great to hear where they laugh or where they get quiet. Because to me, anybody can come up to you and say, "Ah, your movie's great." Who's going to come up to you in front of your face and say they didn't like your movie? Right? So generally, I like to sit in the back room because I think an audience itself doesn't lie. So if you watch a film, your film with an audience, you can feel that audience, right? You know where they're getting quiet. You know if they're getting fidgety. You know where they laugh. So you can get a sense as a whole of how an audience is feeling. And that's just how I feel about that, right? But now you're talking about scholars and you're talking about things or people that have known Dr. Hawass for, say, 30, 40 years. A lot of them would come up and they would say, "Oh my God, I didn't know he could laugh." Or I didn't know he had a family. Or a lot of the personal elements, because they only know him from the professional side, and he kept a lot of that stuff quiet. And so for them to see and understand him more as a person was obviously for me more satisfying, because that was kind of the point of what we were trying to do.
Is that what you ultimately want viewers, audiences to carry with them about him and about Egypt when the film ends?
I do. I think that when I try to at least, when you make a story about a person, is to take you on a journey. And in this journey is to take you through his life, but also through history. But every place that we go to with him is a place that he has a connection to. We're not taking you to a random place and we're like, "Okay, Dr. Hawass, just tell us what you know about this." right? So you do get that sense. And you do get the sense that we are kind of everywhere with him. But that's not manufactured. That's his daily life. He is everywhere at his age, 78, 79. And the way he travels around and what he does daily is just remarkable. So I think those are the fascinating things is when you finally do see it with an audience is that somebody learns something that knows him, or that you do get that reaction from an audience that you're hoping of why you're putting it together, that it comes to fruition.
And I must say, as a filmmaker, it must be so satisfying and validating when you do get those responses after all the blood, sweat, and tears that you put into a film like this. So, to that end, on a final note, and on a personal level, after standing in unopened tombs and spending so much time with someone who has shaped how the world sees this ancient civilization, what does success mean to you for this film?
Um, I think success means really that we finished it, that it is out there, that people are talking about it. Obviously, money is a nice thing,
Mhm.
but as an independent filmmaker, I don't know if my wife will disagree with me on this, but you there's a lot of times you do it because of something of a drive in you, right? If you're doing it for the money, I think you're doing it for the wrong reasons, and I think that may not show it in the end result of the product. And I always tell an audience wherever we go, I say, listen, if you don't like the movie, that's okay. But the one thing that I hope that you can understand and take away from us is that what you see on that screen is something that a very, very small crew created, right? And I just hope you have and it can appreciate just that fact. You don't like it, fine. But look what we did. And I think that's this for me from the heart, from the mind, that's the most satisfying is what we could do on our own and still get it out there, because in today's world it's still hard to get things out there.
Oh, there's so much content. There's so little time, and so it's all about just making sure that people are aware of it. And that to that end, Jeffrey, thank you so much for your time today, and congratulations on a really amazing film.
Thank you, appreciate it.